Captain Minho Park stood on the observation deck of New Haven's Central Command Tower, watching the sunrise paint the wheat fields gold. The massive agricultural colony stretched to the horizon, its green and yellow crops swaying in the gentle morning breeze. 2.5 million people called this place home, and Minho was responsible for keeping them safe. "Beautiful morning, isn't it?" Una said, stepping up beside him with 2 cups of coffee. His wife still wore her sleep clothes, her dark hair messy from bed. She handed him the warm cup and leaned against his shoulder. "Every morning here is beautiful," Minho replied, wrapping his free arm around her. "Hard to believe we've been here. 5 years already?" Through the thick glass, they could see their daughter Hannah running through the community gardens with her friends. The 8-year-old girl laughed as she chased butterflies between the tomato plants. Her voice carried faintly through the morning air, mixing with the sounds of awakening colony life. New Haven sat on Kepler 442b, a world so perfect for human life that the first settlers called it a gift from heaven. The planet orbited its star at just the right distance for liquid water. The atmosphere was clean and breathable. The soil was rich and perfect for earth crops. In 5 short years, the colony had grown from a small outpost to humanity's most successful farming world. "Daddy, look what I found." Hannah's voice crackled through Minho's communication device. The little girl held up a strange blue flower she had never seen before. "Can I keep it?" "Of course, sweetheart," Minho answered. "But remember to wash your hands before breakfast." Una smiled and shook her head. "She finds something new every day. This planet keeps surprising us." Minho nodded, but his attention drifted to the defensive grid status display on his wrist device. Green lights showed that all orbital platforms were functioning normally. The early warning systems showed clear space in all directions, not that anyone expected trouble. New Haven was 120 light-years from Earth, far from any known alien territories. The colonists lived in peace, growing food and building families. Under alien stars. The communication console in Minho's office began beeping. He frowned and checked the time. It was too early for routine reports from the outer monitoring stations. "Command to Station 7, Minho called into his headset. "Report." "Your status?" Static answered him. Then a voice, tense and frightened. "Command, we're seeing something on long-range sensors. Multiple large objects approaching from the outer system." Minho's coffee cup stopped halfway to his lips. "Define large objects, Station 7. "Sir, these readings don't match any known ship designs. They're huge. At least 50 of them, maybe more. They're not responding to our identification requests." The peaceful morning suddenly felt different. Minho set down his coffee and moved to the main communication center. Una followed, her expression shifting from sleepy contentment to concern. "Oh. Stations, this is Command," Minho broadcast. "Report contact with unknown vessels immediately." One by one, the outer monitoring posts confirmed the same thing. Large alien ships were moving toward New Haven. They came from deep space, from the direction of no known human settlements. Their energy signatures were unlike anything in the Colonial Defense database. "How long until they reach us?" Minho asked. "At current speed, approximately 6 hours, 6 hours. Minho's mind raced through the colony's defensive options. New Haven had orbital weapon platforms and a small fleet of patrol ships, enough to handle pirates or smugglers. But 50 large alien vessels was something else entirely. "Sir," the communication officer called out, "I'm getting a transmission from the approaching fleet. Put it through." The main screen flickered and showed a face that made Minho's blood run cold. The alien creature had gray skin like old leather, 4 eyes that glowed yellow, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. When it spoke, the translation system struggled to convert its harsh language into human words. "Human settlement," the alien said, its voice like grinding metal. "You have built on worlds that belong to the Valkyrie Empire. This system is now ours. You will evacuate immediately or be destroyed." Minho stepped forward, his hand instinctively moving to the emergency alert button. "This is Captain Minho Park, commander of New Haven Colony. This system was uninhabited when we arrived." We have legal claim under galactic settlement law. The alien's four eyes narrowed. Galactic law does not apply to inferior species. You have 1 hour to begin evacuation. Any humans remaining after that time will be eliminated. The transmission cut off, leaving the command center in stunned silence. 1 hour, Yuna whispered. We can't evacuate 2.5 million people. In 1 hour. Minho was already moving, his fingers flying over the control panels. All stations, emergency alert. Begin immediate civilian evacuation procedures. Contact Earth Command, Priority 1 distress signal. Activate all defensive systems. The colony's warning sirens began wailing across New Haven. Through the observation windows, Minho could see people stopping in the streets, looking up at the speakers with confusion and growing fear. In the gardens below, Hana was looking around, no longer chasing butterflies. Yuna, take Hana and get to the evacuation ships, Minho said, not looking away from his controls. I'm not leaving without you. You have to. If something happens to me, she needs her mother. The defensive grid powered up, its energy signatures painting new colors across Minho's displays. 12 orbital platforms came online, their weapon? Systems charging. The colony's small fleet of patrol ships launched from their docking bays, their pilots knowing they faced impossible odds. Sir, the communication officer called out, Earth Command is responding to our distress signal. Admiral Suk Kim's image appeared on the screen, her face grim with concern. Captain Park, we received your alert. What's your situation? 50 alien warships demanding immediate evacuation, Minho reported quickly. They call themselves the Valkyrie Empire. They're giving us 1 hour. Admiral Kim's jaw tightened. 1 hour for 2.5 million people is impossible. We're mobilizing relief ships, but the nearest fleet is 3 days away. 3 days might as well be 3 years, Minho replied. Admiral, if we don't make it, you will make it. Captain, that's an order. Do whatever you have to do to buy time. The transmission from Earth cut off as the Valkyrie ships entered New Haven's outer defensive perimeter. The orbital platforms opened fire immediately, their energy beams lancing across space toward the alien fleet. For a moment, Minho felt hope as he watched the brilliant light show of human weapons engaging the enemy. Then the Valkyrie ships returned fire, and Minho realized how outmatched they were. The alien weapons were like nothing he had ever seen. Instead of simple energy beams, they fired some kind of disintegration field that made matter simply cease to exist. The first orbital platform vanished in a flash of light, then the second, then the third. All civilian ships, launch immediately, Minho ordered into his headset. Don't wait for full capacity. Get our people out of here now. Through the observation windows, he could see the evacuation ships rising from landing pads across the colony. Hundreds of them, carrying as many people as possible. But there weren't enough ships, and there wasn't enough time. The Valkyrie destroyed the remaining orbital platforms within minutes. Human patrol ships tried to buy time with suicide runs against the alien fleet, but their weapons barely scratched the enemy hulls. One by one, they were vaporized by the terrible alien disintegration beams. Yuna, are you on a ship yet? Minho called through his personal communicator. We're boarding now, she replied, her voice tight with fear. Hannah keeps asking where you are. Tell her Daddy loves her. Tell her the stars will remember us. Minho, don't talk like that. You're going to make it out. But Minho knew better. Through the command center's sensors, he could see the Valkyrie ships entering the planet's atmosphere. They weren't just attacking military targets. They were systematically destroying everything: homes, schools, hospitals, farms. The beautiful wheat fields that had glowed golden in the morning sun were now burning under alien fire. The last thing Minho saw was a Valkyrie ship positioning itself directly above the command tower. He had just enough time to send one final message to Earth before the disintegration beam struck. The tower, the command center, and Captain Minho Park simply ceased to exist. The massacre of New Haven took 6 hours. When it was over, nothing remained of humanity's most successful colony except cooling radiation and expanding clouds of debris. 2.5 million people had been systematically murdered, their crime being nothing more than existing in a place the Valkyrie Empire wanted. The aliens departed as quickly as they had arrived, leaving no witnesses and expecting no consequences. They had eliminated what they saw as a minor pest, a small annoyance in their grand expansion across the galaxy. They had no idea what they had just awakened. The silence in the Earth Defense Command Center was complete. Admiral Suk Kim stood before the massive display screen, watching the final transmission from New Haven play for the third time. Captain Minho Park's last words echoed through the room. "Tell her the stars will remember us." Then static, then nothing. How many? President Jiho Choi asked quietly. The leader of United Earth had flown directly to Geneva when the first distress signals arrived. His face was pale, his hands shaking slightly as he gripped the back of a chair. 2.3 million confirmed residents, Admiral Kim replied, her voice carefully controlled. We estimate another 100,000 visitors and temporary workers. All gone, sir. Complete annihilation. The reconnaissance drone footage played on the secondary screens. Where New Haven Colony had thrived just days before, there was now only empty space and radiation clouds. The Valkyrie had been thorough. They hadn't just destroyed the colony, they had erased every trace that humans had ever been there. The civilian evacuation ships? Someone asked from the back of the room. None made it to the jump point, Admiral Kim said. Long-range sensors detected the destruction of approximately 300 evacuation vessels. The aliens hunted down every single refugee ship. President Choi closed his eyes. Children. There were children on those ships. Sir, Admiral Kim continued, the aliens also destroyed our monitoring stations throughout the system. They wanted no witnesses. They expected no consequences. The president opened his eyes, and Admiral Kim saw something there that made her step back. It wasn't grief anymore. It wasn't shock. It was something cold and terrible and completely unlike the peaceful leader she had known for years. Get me. Director Kong, President Choi said. Emergency authorization level black, murmurs rippled through the command center. Level black authorization hadn't been used since the colony wars 50 years ago. Most of the junior officers had never even heard of it. Director Hyun Kong arrived within minutes, still wearing casual clothes from his interrupted evening at home. The head of the Strategic Response Division was a small, quiet man who rarely spoke at public events. Most people assumed he managed Earth's diplomatic intelligence network. They were catastrophically wrong. Mr. President, Director Kong said, settling into a chair at the main briefing table, I assume this is about New Haven. 2.5 million people, Hyun, murdered in cold blood. Hunted down like animals when they tried to escape. Director Kong nodded slowly. I've been monitoring the situation. The attackers were the Valkyrie Empire, a militaristic species from the Cygnus sector. They've been expanding aggressively for the past 50 years. What do we know about them? Approximately 4 billion individuals spread across 47 star systems. Highly advanced technology, particularly in weapons and space travel. They view other species as inferior and have a doctrine of complete territorial expansion. President Choi leaned forward. Can they be reasoned with? No, sir. Intelligence reports indicate they have eliminated 18 other species in the past century. Complete genocide is their standard operating procedure. The silence stretched out again. Admiral Kim watched the president's face, seeing him struggle with thoughts she couldn't imagine. Finally, he spoke. Hyun, I need to know about Godslayer. Every person in the room turned to stare. Admiral Kim felt her breath catch in her throat. Godslayer was a whispered rumor, a ghost story told by intelligence operatives late at night. She had assumed it was just mythology. Sir, Director Kong said carefully, that information is restricted to the highest levels of government. Authorizing full disclosure. Everyone in this room has level black clearance as of right now. President Choi's voice was steady, but his eyes were like ice. I want to know everything. Director Kong was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device. He pressed several buttons. and the main display screen shifted to show a classified network that Admiral Kim had never seen before. "Ladies and gentlemen," Director Kong began, "for the past 50 years, Earth has been preparing for interstellar warfare on a scale that would terrify our enemies. What I'm about to show you is known to fewer than 100 people in the entire government." The screen filled with images that made Admiral Kim's mind reel. Massive space installations hidden in the outer solar system. Shipyards the size of small moons, concealed behind artificial asteroid fields. Weapons platforms that dwarfed anything she had ever imagined. "This is the Prometheus Network," Director Kong continued. 63 hidden military installations throughout human space and beyond. Each one capable of building and maintaining fleets that could conquer entire star systems. "How is this possible?" Admiral Kim whispered. "The defense budget could never support the public defense budget," Director Kong corrected. "There's another budget, funded through classified industrial operations and deep space mining. It's approximately 40 times larger than what appears in government reports." More images flashed across the screen. Ships that looked like floating cities, bristling with weapons that Admiral Kim couldn't even identify. Facilities that could manufacture thousands of fighters in a single day. Research stations developing technology decades ahead of anything the public knew existed. "Our current fleet strength?" President Choi asked. 12,000 capital ships, 40,000 cruisers, and approximately 200,000 fighters and support vessels, all hidden in deep space installations. Admiral Kim sat down heavily. She commanded what she thought was Earth's entire military fleet, 300 ships total. She had been wrong by a factor of more than 1,000. Personnel? 8 million. Active military, 2 million support staff. Most families believe their loved ones work at research stations or mining operations. And weapons capability? Director Kong's expression became even more serious. "We can crack planets, Mr. President. We can collapse stars. We can sterilize entire star systems and leave nothing but radiation and debris. Like what happened to New Haven. Far worse than what happened to New Haven." President Choi stood up and walked to the main screen. He stared at the images of humanity's secret military might for a long time. When he turned back to the room, his face was set in lines of granite. "Hyen, I want you to contact General Lee. Full activation of the Prometheus Network. I want every ship, every weapon, every soldier ready for deployment within 72 hours. Sir, that's a massive undertaking. The logistics alone. I don't care about logistics." The president's voice cut through the room like a blade. "The Valkyrie Empire thinks they can murder human children and fly away without consequences. They're about to learn why that was the worst mistake in their species' history." Director Kong nodded and began typing rapidly on his secure terminal. Across human space, encrypted signals began reaching installations that had waited decades for this moment. Hidden shipyards powered up their construction bays. Weapons that could end civilizations came online. Millions of soldiers who had trained in secret received their activation orders. "What are our objectives, Mr. President?" Admiral Kim asked. President Choi turned to face her, and she saw something in his eyes that made her blood run cold. "Complete and total extinction of the Valkyrie Empire. Every ship, every station, every world. When we're finished, there won't be enough left of them to fill a history book. Sir, that's 47 star systems, billions of lives. They killed 2.5 million of our people, including children trying to escape. They hunted down refugee ships like it was a sport." The president's voice never rose, but the fury behind it was like a physical force. "I want them erased, all of them. So completely that other species will whisper about what happens when you attack human civilians." General Sun-Ho Lee's image appeared on the communication screen. The commander of Earth's secret military looked like he had been expecting this call. "Mr. President," he said simply. "General Authorization Omega Black, full deployment." "Understood, sir. All assets will be operational within 60 hours. Shall I begin moving fleets toward Valkyrie space?" "Negative. I want them to see us coming. I want them to have time to realize what they've done. When we arrive, I want them to know exactly why their species is about to end. As orders flowed through the secret networks, Admiral Kim watched displays showing the awakening of humanity's true military power. Ships larger than cities began emerging from hidden bases. Weapons that could kill stars charged their systems. Millions of soldiers who had spent decades preparing for this moment began boarding transports. The Valkyrie Empire had killed a human colony and expected no response. They were about to discover that humanity had been preparing for this war since before they had ever left their home system. Earth's response would be swift, merciless, and absolute. In the depths of space, hidden installations that had slept for 50 years roared to life. The most terrifying military force in galactic history was finally awakening, and its target was the complete annihilation of everything the Valkyrie had ever built. The sleeping giant was awake, and it was very, very angry. Commander Yunji Nam floated in zero gravity, watching through the observation port as the Helios array came to life. The massive structure stretched for thousands of kilometers in every direction, its metal framework gleaming under the light of artificial stars. For 30 years, it had pretended to be a peaceful research station studying stellar formation. That lie was about to end. "Commander, all fusion reactors are online," reported her chief engineer. "We're reading stable plasma containment across all 700 units." Yunji nodded, her eyes fixed on the incredible sight before her. Each of the 700 reactors was a small artificial star, burning with the power of controlled nuclear fusion. Together they generated more energy than most solar systems produced naturally. The galaxy's scientists had always wondered how humans had solved the energy crisis so completely. Now they would learn the terrible truth. "Begin Phase 2 conversion," Yunji ordered. The Helios array began to change. What had appeared to be a peaceful energy research station revealed its true nature. Massive focusing lenses emerged from hidden compartments. Gravity manipulation systems powered up. Quantum field generators hummed to life. The 700 artificial stars aligned themselves into a perfect geometric pattern. "Conversion complete, Commander. The array is now fully operational as a stellar manipulation weapon." Uyongi allowed herself a small smile. The Helios array could focus the power of 700 stars into a single beam capable of destabilizing natural suns. It could force healthy stars into premature collapse, turning them into weapons that would destroy everything in their systems. The Valkyrie had no idea such technology even existed. Across human space, similar transformations were taking place. Research stations revealed themselves as weapons platforms. Mining operations uncloaked to show massive shipyards. Scientific expeditions turned out to be military reconnaissance missions. For 50 years, humanity had been hiding its true capabilities. Behind lies and misdirection, Captain Wusung Yung stood on the bridge of the UESS Retribution, watching his crew prepare their ship for war. The Retribution was humanity's first planet-killer-class vessel, though most of the galaxy believed it was just an unusually large exploration ship. At 15 kilometers long and bristling with weapons that could crack worlds, it represented the pinnacle of human military engineering. "Captain, all systems report ready," his first officer announced. "Quantum torpedo bays loaded, gravity wave generators online, matter disruptors at full charge." "And the other ships in our battle group?" 11 more planet killers ready for deployment, sir. Plus supporting fleets, 400 cruisers, 800 destroyers, and approximately 3,000 fighter squadrons. Wusung looked out at the massive fleet assembling around his ship. This was just one of 12 identical battle groups, and they represented only a fraction of humanity's hidden military strength. The Valkyrie had destroyed one human colony. Earth's response would be to eliminate their entire species. "Communications, send a message to Fleet Command. Battle Group Alpha is ready for deployment." In the deep research laboratories beneath Earth's surface, Dr. Minji-Oh made final adjustments to humanity's most terrifying weapon. The quantum cascade bomb looked innocent enough, a small metallic sphere about the size of a basketball. But its appearance was deceiving. "Run the final simulation one more time?" She told her team the holographic display showed what would happen when the QC bomb detonated. The weapon didn't just destroy matter, it destabilized the fundamental forces that held atoms together. The effect spread outward at the speed of light, causing a chain reaction that could theoretically continue indefinitely. Simulation complete, Doctor. Projected effective radius, 37 light-years from point of detonation. Minji nodded grimly. One QC bomb could sterilize dozens of star systems, leaving nothing but empty space where thriving worlds had once existed. It was a weapon so terrible that even Earth's government had debated whether to build it. The massacre at New Haven had ended that debate. How many units are ready for deployment? 47, Doctor. One for each star system in Valkyrie space. Good. Begin loading them onto the delivery ships. While Earth's military prepared for war, intelligence operative Kim Min-yu worked deep in enemy territory. She had been operating in Valkyrie space for 3 years, building a cover identity as a traitor from a neutral species. The aliens had no idea that a human agent was moving freely through their empire, gathering the intelligence that would soon destroy them. The target data is complete, she reported through her encrypted communicator. I've mapped all major population centers, military installations, and government facilities across the entire Valkyrie Empire. The data she had gathered was staggering. 47 star systems containing 847 inhabited worlds. Military forces consisting of approximately 50,000 warships. A total population of 4.2 billion Valkyrie spread across their empire. It was a massive civilization that had taken centuries to build. Within days, all of it would be reduced to expanding clouds of radioactive gas. Kyungmin, what's the civilian population breakdown? Came the voice from Earth Command. Approximately 60% civilians, sir. That includes their young and elderly populations. There was a pause on the communication channel. Understood. Continue monitoring their military deployments. Kyungmin had expected some hesitation from Earth Command when they learned how many non-combatants would die in the coming war. Instead, she heard only cold determination. The Valkyrie had murdered human children at New Haven. Earth no longer cared about the age of their enemies. Back on Earth, President Jiho Choi met with his senior military commanders in the most secure bunker on the planet. The walls were lined with displays showing the deployment of humanity's secret military forces. Thousands of ships moved through space, converging on staging areas around Valkyrie territory. Status report, General Lee. The President requested, all battle groups are in position, sir. The Helios arrays are fully operational. QC bombs are loaded and ready for deployment. We can begin the operation on your command. Casualties? Our projections show minimal human losses. Mr. President, the Valkyrie military is approximately 50 years behind our current technology. Level, their weapons cannot penetrate our shielding, and their ships are too slow to escape our attack patterns. I meant their casualties, General. General Lee checked his datapad. Complete extinction, sir. We estimate 0 survivors across all 47 star systems. President Choi was quiet for a long moment. Through the bunker's communication systems, he could hear the reports flowing in from across human space. Millions of soldiers preparing for the largest military operation in galactic history. Weapons that could destroy entire civilizations charging their systems. Ships that could cross interstellar distances in days rather than months. Sir, Admiral Kim spoke up, once we begin this operation, there's no going back. The galaxy will never see humanity the same way again. Good, the President replied. I want them to be afraid. I want every species in this galaxy to know that attacking human civilians means the complete destruction of everything they've ever built. The other galactic powers are already asking questions about our military buildup. They're demanding explanations. They'll get their explanations soon enough. When the Valkyrie star systems go dark, everyone will understand exactly what humanity is capable of. The final preparations continued around the clock. In hidden shipyards, the last of the planet killer fleets received their final supplies and ammunition. The Helios arrays completed their targeting calculations, identifying which Valkyrie suns would be collapsed first. QC bombs were distributed to strike teams that would deliver them to the heart of enemy space. Dr. Minji watched the weapons she had created being loaded onto delivery ships. Each QC bomb represented years of her work, decades of theoretical research translated into instruments of annihilation. She felt no satisfaction in seeing them deployed. These weapons would save human lives by ending the Valkyrie threat permanently, but they would also change humanity forever. Doctor, one of her assistants asked, what do we tell the other galactic species when they ask how we developed this technology so quickly? We tell them the truth, Minji replied, that we've been preparing for this war since before most of them had discovered space travel, that Earth has been building weapons in secret while pretending to be a peaceful farming world, that humanity has been planning for the day when someone would force us to show our true strength. The massive military deployment was nearly complete. In just hours, the largest fleet in galactic history would cross into Valkyrie space and begin the systematic annihilation of an entire species. The Valkyrie had thought they were attacking a weak human colony with no ability to fight back. They were about to learn that New Haven had been protected by the most advanced and ruthless military force the galaxy had ever seen. Earth's response would be swift, merciless, and absolute. When it was over, the Valkyrie Empire would exist only as a warning to other species about what happened when humans were pushed too far. The instruments of annihilation were ready. All that remained was to unleash them. Admiral Taiho Shin stood on the bridge of the flagship Absolute Zero, watching the edge of Valkyrie space grow larger on his displays. Behind him stretched the first extermination fleet, 300 planet killer-class ships, each one capable of destroying entire worlds. It was the largest military force humanity had ever deployed, and it represented less than 10% of Earth's total fleet strength. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Valkyrie border station, his communication officer reported. Put it through. The main screen flickered to show a Valkyrie military commander, his 4 yellow eyes wide with confusion and growing fear. The alien's gray skin had gone pale as his sensors showed him the impossible size of the approaching human fleet. Human vessels, the Valkyrie said in broken galactic standard, you are entering restricted space. Turn back immediately or face the consequences. Admiral Shin stepped forward, his face completely emotionless. This is Admiral Taiho Shin of the United Earth Military. We are here to deliver consequences for the massacre at New Haven Colony. New Haven? That was a minor border incident. A single colony that refused to evacuate properly. This response is completely disproportionate. 2.5 million humans dead, including children hunting down and fleeing refugee ships, Admiral Shin replied calmly. Your definition of minor and ours differ considerably. The Valkyrie commander's expression shifted from confusion to alarm as more human ships continued to appear on his sensors. How many vessels are you bringing into our space? Enough. Listen, human, perhaps we can negotiate. The Valkyrie Empire is willing to offer compensation for any damages. Admiral Shin cut off the transmission with a gesture. Around him, his bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, preparing for the systematic destruction of everything the Valkyrie had ever built. Communications, send a message to all ships in the fleet, Admiral Shin ordered. Operation Clean Slate is now active. Rules of engagement, no survivors, no exceptions, no mercy. The first extermination fleet crossed into Valkyrie space like a wave of death moving through the cosmos. But they didn't head directly for the major population centers or military installations. Instead, they began with the outer colonies, the small worlds that the Valkyrie had conquered from other species over the past century. The first target was Corval Prime, a world that had once belonged to a peaceful species called the Mentari. The Valkyrie had wiped out the native population 50 years ago and turned the planet into a mining operation. Now it was home to 40 million Valkyrie citizens who had no idea what was coming. Target acquired, reported the weapons officer aboard. The Absolute Zero. Corval Prime, population approximately 40 million. No significant military presence. Are there any other species on that world? Admiral Shin asked. Negative, sir. The Valkyrie eliminated all native life forms when they took control. Then proceed with planetary sterilization. The weapons that fired from the human fleet were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Instead of simple energy beams or nuclear missiles, they unleashed forces that attacked matter at the molecular level. The atmosphere of Corvo Prime began to glow as quantum disruption fields tore apart everything they touched. Within 6 hours, Corvo Prime was gone. Not destroyed. Gone. Where a thriving world had existed, there was now only empty space and expanding clouds of ionized gas. 40 million Valkyrie had died so quickly they never knew what killed them. Next target, Admiral Shin said simply. The pattern continued across the outer systems of the Valkyrie Empire. The human fleet moved methodically from world to world, erasing each one completely before moving on to the next. They didn't engage Valkyrie military forces directly. They didn't land troops or attempt conquest. They simply deleted entire planets from existence and continued their advance. News of the attacks spread through Valkyrie space faster than the human fleet could travel. Panic began to set in as reports came back from the outer systems. Entire worlds had vanished. Fleets of impossibly advanced human ships were moving steadily toward the Empire's core systems. The aliens who had thought humans were a minor nuisance were learning they had awakened something terrible. Supreme Admiral Young-Soo Han received the reports in his command center on Valkyrie Prime. The irony of his situation was not lost on him. He was a human, captured during first contact 30 years ago and slowly converted to serve the Valkyrie Empire through a combination of psychological conditioning and surgical modification. His memories of Earth were fragments, but he still understood human military thinking better than any pure Valkyrie. How is this possible? Demanded High Commander Vash, the Valkyrie leader who controlled military operations. Our intelligence reports indicated humans had minimal space capabilities. Young-Soo studied the tactical displays with growing dread. The reports were wrong, catastrophically wrong. These aren't exploration ships or simple colony vessels. This is a full military deployment using technology decades ahead of our own. You're saying the humans have been lying about their capabilities? I'm saying we've been attacking a species that was already preparing for interstellar warfare while we thought they were simple farmers and researchers. As if to prove his point, another report came in. The human fleet had just erased 3 more worlds in the same day. Their weapons seemed to work at impossible speeds, and their ships moved through space faster than Valkyrie vessels could track. What do they want? High Commander Vash demanded. Territory? Resources? Political control? Young-Soo looked at the tactical display showing the steady advance of human forces toward the heart of the Valkyrie Empire. I don't think they want anything from us, he said quietly. I think they want us gone, all of us. Meanwhile, Captain Subin Lee piloted her stealth corvette Shadowbane through the chaos of fleeing Valkyrie ships. Her mission was different from the main fleet's planetary destruction operations. She hunted refugees. The Valkyrie government had ordered the evacuation of their outer colonies when they realized the scope of the human attack. Massive transport ships filled with civilian families were fleeing toward the inner systems, hoping to find safety behind the Empire's military defenses. Earth Command had different plans. Shadowbane to command, Captain Lee reported through her encrypted communicator. I have visual on Evacuation Fleet Tango, approximately 200 ships. Estimated passenger load 4 million civilians. Rules of engagement remain unchanged, Captain. No survivors. Captain Lee felt a moment of hesitation. 4 million people, including families with children, fleeing in terror from the advancing human fleet. Then she remembered the footage from New Haven, the burning evacuation ships that the Valkyrie had hunted down for sport. Understood, Command. Beginning attack run. The Shadowbane was a masterpiece of human stealth technology. It could approach within weapons range completely undetected, even by the most advanced Valkyrie sensors. The refugee ships had no idea death was approaching until the first quantum torpedoes began exploding among their formation. The attack was over in minutes. 200 ships, 4 million civilians, reduced to expanding debris fields. Captain Lee's ship disappeared back into stealth mode and began hunting for the next group of fleeing Valkyrie across the Empire. Similar scenes played out as Earth's forces demonstrated their true nature. This wasn't a war in any traditional sense. It was an extermination operation, carried out with ruthless efficiency by a species that had been planning for this moment for decades. The galactic community began to take notice. Emergency sessions were called in the Galactic Council chambers as reports filtered in of humanity's unprecedented military response. Species that had viewed humans as newcomers and peaceful farmers were suddenly confronted with evidence of the most advanced military force in galactic history. The scale of this operation is impossible, declared Ambassador Vorthak of the hegemony. No species could hide military capabilities of this magnitude. The humans have been lying to all of us, replied Counselor Zenth. While we believed they were simple colonists and researchers, they were building weapons that can destroy entire star systems. What do they want? What are their demands? The answer came in the form of a broadcast that reached every world in the galaxy. President Jiho Choi's image appeared on communication networks everywhere, his message simple and terrifying. To the species of the galaxy, he began, his voice calm and measured. The Valkyrie Empire attacked and destroyed New Haven Colony, murdering 2.3 million innocent humans, including children fleeing in refugee ships. This was an unprovoked act of genocide against a peaceful settlement. The image shifted to show the advancing human fleet, its size and power becoming clear for the first time. Earth's response will be proportional to the crime committed. The Valkyrie Empire spans 47 star systems. We will erase all 47 systems completely. When we are finished, nothing will remain of their civilization except expanding clouds of plasma. Let this serve as a lesson to every species in the galaxy. Humanity remembers our dead, and we repay debts in full. Attack our civilians, and we will end your species. This is not a threat, this is a promise. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. The peaceful farmers and researchers from Earth had revealed themselves as something far more terrifying, a species capable of genocide on a scale that the Valkyrie Prime system had never seen such a massive military gathering. Every warship in the Empire, nearly 50,000 vessels, had been called back to defend the homeworld. Orbital fortresses that had taken centuries to build bristled with weapons. The planet's surface was covered with energy shields and defense platforms. It was the greatest military force the Valkyrie Empire had ever assembled. It wasn't going to be enough. Colonel Dong-Yin Choi watched the enemy preparations from the bridge of his command ship, the Inevitable. The human fleet had taken 6 months to reach the Valkyrie home system, methodically destroying every other world in the Empire along the way. 46 star systems had been erased from existence. Only Valkyrie Prime remained. Sir, we're detecting massive energy signatures from the enemy fleet, his sensor operator reported. They're powering up every weapon system they have? Let them, Colonel Choi replied calmly. It won't matter. The final battle for Valkyrie Prime began at dawn on the planet's surface. 50,000 alien warships opened fire simultaneously, their weapons creating a light show visible from the planet's surface. Energy beams that could vaporize mountains, missiles that could crack continents, and plasma charges that burned hotter than small suns. All of it directed at the approaching human fleet. The human ships didn't even slow down. How are they surviving? That barrage? Supreme Admiral Young Soo-han demanded from his command center. His modified human brain struggled to process what his sensors were showing him. The Valkyrie weapons were hitting their targets, but the human ships seemed completely unaffected. Their shielding technology is beyond our understanding, his chief science officer replied. Our most powerful weapons are barely registering on their defensive systems. The human fleet moved through the Valkyrie barrage like it was nothing more than a light rain. When they finally returned fire, the difference in technology became horrifyingly clear. Human weapons didn't just destroy their targets, they made them cease to exist. Valkyrie ships vanished in flashes of light, their atoms broken down to component particles. "Fall back to the inner defensive line," Young-Soo ordered, but he knew it was already over. The humans had revealed technology so far advanced that the Valkyrie might as well have been throwing rocks at starships. Colonel Choi watched the enemy fleet disintegrate with detached professional interest. The Valkyrie were fighting bravely. He had to give them credit for that. But bravery couldn't overcome a 50-year technological gap. Within 4 hours, the mighty Valkyrie fleet had been reduced to expanding clouds of debris. "Sir, enemy space forces have been neutralized," his tactical officer reported. "The way to the planet is clear, negative. We're not landing troops or conducting orbital bombardment." "Sir?" Colonel Choi turned to the main display, which showed the system star burning peacefully in the distance. "We're going to demonstrate humanity's ultimate weapon. The one we built specifically for situations like this." Dr. Jeong Song monitored the stellar manipulation systems from the science vessel Prometheus, positioned at a safe distance from the upcoming operation. She had helped design the technology that was about to be deployed, but seeing it used for the first time filled her with a mixture of professional pride and existential dread. "All Helios arrays are in position," she reported to Colonel Choi. "Stellar destabilization sequence is ready for initiation. What's the timeline, Doctor?" 72 hours from initiation to supernova. The process cannot be stopped once it begins. 72 hours. 3 days for every Valkyrie in the system to watch their sun die and know that their species was ending. It was a message that would echo across the galaxy for millennia. "Begin stellar destabilization," Colonel Choi ordered. The Helios arrays had been positioned throughout the Valkyrie Prime system over the past week, masquerading as sensor buoys. Now they revealed their true purpose. Focused energy beams, each one carrying the power of hundreds of stars, struck the system's sun at precisely calculated points. The star began to change immediately. Its nuclear fires, which had burned steadily for billions of years, became erratic and unstable. Massive solar flares erupted from its surface, sending waves of radiation across the system. The carefully balanced fusion reactions that kept the star alive began to spiral out of control on the surface of Valkyrie Prime. Panic spread as the population realized what was happening. Their sun, the source of all life in their system, was dying. And it was dying because humans had learned to kill stars. "This is impossible," High Commander Vash said, staring at the readings from their orbital observatories. "Stars don't just spontaneously destabilize. This has to be some kind of weapon." Supreme Admiral Young-Soo Han nodded grimly. "The humans have weaponized stellar manipulation. They're forcing our sun into premature collapse. Can we stop it?" "No, the process has already begun. In 72 hours, our star will go supernova. The explosion will sterilize everything in this system and probably several neighboring systems as well." The reality of their situation began to sink in. The Valkyrie Empire, which had existed for over 1,000 years, was about to end in the most spectacular way possible. Their homeworld, their billions of citizens, their entire civilization, all of it would be consumed when their own star became a weapon. Evacuation ships began launching from Valkyrie Prime, but there was nowhere to run. The other 46 systems in their empire had already been destroyed. Neighboring species had closed their borders, terrified of becoming humanity's next target. The Valkyrie faced extinction with no possibility of escape. As the star continued its death spiral, President Jiho Choi's final message was broadcast throughout the galaxy. His image appeared on every communication network, speaking directly to every species in known space. "People of the galaxy," he began, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "You are witnessing the end of the Valkyrie Empire. Their crime was simple. They attacked a human colony and murdered 2.3 million innocent people, including children." The image shifted to show the dying star of Valkyrie Prime, its surface racked with uncontrolled fusion reactions. This is humanity's response. We have erased 47 star systems. We have ended a civilization that thought it could murder our people without consequences. The Valkyrie Empire is now a historical footnote. The president's expression became even more serious. Let this be understood by every species watching. Humanity does not start wars, but we finish them. We do not seek conflict, but we will end any species that threatens our civilians. Attack our people, and we will erase you from the universe so completely that future generations will forget you ever existed. We have shown you our weapons. We have demonstrated our capabilities. We have proven that Earth is not the peaceful farming world you believed us to be. We are a species that builds weapons capable of killing stars and uses them when forced to do so. The transmission ended with images of the human fleet, its scale and power now fully revealed to the galaxy. Ship formations that stretched across entire star systems. Weapons platforms that could destroy planets. Technology that made every other species' military look like primitive tools. Dr. Jiang Song watched the stellar collapse continue from her observation post. The star's death was beautiful in a terrible way, its surface erupting with plasma storms that painted the system in brilliant colors. She had helped create the technology that was killing it, but she felt no satisfaction in the achievement. Doctor, we're detecting massive gravitational fluctuations, her assistant reported. The star's core is beginning final collapse. How much longer? Approximately 18 hours until supernova. 18 hours. The Valkyrie had 18 hours left to exist as a species. Some had managed to escape the system, but not many. The vast majority of their population would die when their sun exploded, taking their homeworld and everything they had built with it. On Valkyrie Prime, the population had stopped panicking and fallen into a strange calm. There was nowhere to run and nothing they could do. They gathered in their cities and homes, watching their dying sun through protective filters, waiting for the end. Supreme Admiral Young Suhan stood on the observation deck of his command center, looking up at the sky. His modified brain still retained fragments of memories from his human childhood, and he found himself thinking about Earth for the first time in decades. "We should have left them alone," he said quietly to High Commander Vash. "It was just one colony, one small world. How could we have known they had this kind of power? We should have known that any species capable of interstellar travel would be capable of interstellar warfare. We assumed they were weak because they appeared peaceful. We were wrong." The star continued its death spiral, growing brighter and more unstable with each passing hour. Soon it would explode with the force of 1 trillion nuclear weapons, and the Valkyrie Empire would become nothing more than a cautionary tale about what happened when you attacked humanity. The galaxy watched in terrified fascination as the most advanced military force in galactic history demonstrated why humans should never be underestimated. The peaceful farmers from Earth had revealed themselves as masters of stellar destruction, capable of ending entire civilizations with weapons that attacked the fundamental forces of the universe. The stars themselves wept as the Valkyrie sun prepared to die. The Valkyrie star died at 1437 Galactic Standard Time on a Tuesday afternoon. The supernova was visible from 300 light-years away, a brilliant new star that burned brighter than entire galaxies for several weeks, before fading to an expanding cloud of radioactive plasma. 4 billion years of stellar evolution ended in a few hours, taking with it the last remnants of the Valkyrie Empire. Supreme Admiral Young Suhan had chosen to remain on Valkyrie Prime when the evacuation ships departed. In his final moments, as the shockwave from the exploding star raced toward the planet at light speed, he remembered something from his lost human childhood. His mother singing him to sleep with an old Earth lullaby about stars watching over sleeping children. The irony was perfect. The stars were indeed watching, and they had become instruments of human vengeance. 5 years later, Ambassador Xiaoyan Bei stood before the relocated Galactic Council, addressing representatives from 200 species who had gathered in the neutral Androran system. The original council chambers had been too close to the expanding radiation from the destroyed Valkyrie systems, forcing the entire galactic government to relocate. "The memorial stations are now complete," she reported to the assembled delegates. 47 automated platforms have been positioned at the sites of the former Valkyrie systems. Each one broadcasts the story of New Haven Colony and humanity's response to its destruction. The council chamber was quieter than it had ever been. Once, debates had raged for hours over trade disputes and territorial claims. Now, every species spoke in careful, measured tones, acutely aware that humanity was listening to every word. "Ambassador Bay," asked Councillor Vorthak, his voice trembling slightly, "when will Earth consider scaling back its military presence in this sector?" Sioran smiled politely. "Earth's military deployments are a matter of internal security policy. We will maintain whatever forces we deem necessary to protect human interests." The truth was that humanity's military presence had only grown since the Valkyrie War. The galaxy now knew that Earth possessed weapons capable of destroying entire star systems, but they didn't know the full extent of human capabilities. Intelligence reports suggested that humanity had barely used 10% of their true military strength in the war. Every species had the same question, but none dared ask it directly. Exactly how powerful were the humans? Director In-ho Kim walked through the construction sites of Project Lighthouse, humanity's newest and most ambitious weapons program. The facility stretched across an entire moon, its purpose hidden from the galaxy behind layers of classification and misdirection. Even most humans didn't know what was being built here. "Status report," he requested from the chief engineer. "Galaxy-class stellar manipulation arrays are 60% complete, sir. When finished, we'll be able to destabilize entire galactic clusters from a distance of up to 50,000 light-years. Galaxy-class weapons. The ability to destroy not just star systems, but entire regions of space containing millions of civilizations. It was technology so advanced that it bordered on the godlike, and Earth was building it because they had learned an important lesson from the Valkyrie. War. Superior firepower prevented wars better than diplomacy ever could. Timeline for completion? 18 months for the first prototype, sir. Full deployment across all major galactic sectors within 5 years. Director Kim nodded, watching the massive construction robots assemble components that could end civilizations. The galaxy thought humanity had revealed their true military power when they destroyed the Valkyrie. They had no idea that Earth was already building weapons that would make stellar manipulation look primitive on Earth itself. Supreme Commander Suk Kim reviewed intelligence reports from across the galaxy. The political situation had stabilized in humanity's favor, but it was a stability built on fear rather than mutual respect. "Ma'am, we're detecting some unusual military buildups in the hegemony systems," her intelligence chief reported. "They're trying to develop new weapons technologies, possibly to counter our stellar manipulation capabilities." "Let them try," Commander Kim replied. "By the time they develop anything that might threaten us, we'll have moved on to weapons they can't even imagine." The reports made for interesting reading. Every major species was desperately trying to close the technological gap with humanity. Research stations worked around the clock attempting to reverse engineer captured human technology. Military budgets had tripled across the galaxy as species prepared for a future where humans might target them next. None of it would matter. Humanity's technological advancement had been accelerating since the Valkyrie War. Each new weapon system was more advanced than the last, and Earth scientists were already working on concepts that wouldn't be deployed for decades. "What about the refugee situation?" Commander Kim asked. "The few thousand Valkyrie survivors are still in protective custody on Sanctuary Station. They're technically the last members of their species, though most suffer from severe psychological trauma. The Valkyrie refugees were a reminder of what happened when species challenged humanity. They had been the lucky ones, off-world when their star systems were destroyed. Now they lived under human protection, the last witnesses to their civilizations. Hubris. In the Outer Rim territories, Captain Minho Park Jr. graduated from the Earth Defense Academy with highest honors. The son of New Haven's last commander had spent his childhood studying the war that avenged his father's death. Now he was ready to serve in the military that had made his family's sacrifice meaningful. "Congratulations, Captain Park," Admiral Kim said at the graduation ceremony. "Your father would be proud." "Thank you, ma'am. I've requested assignment to the Memorial Fleet." The Memorial Fleet was a new branch of Earth's military, dedicated to protecting the memorial stations at the sites of destroyed Valkyrie systems. It was considered a sacred duty, ensuring that the galaxy never forgot the price of attacking human civilians. "Your request is approved. You'll be commanding the station at the site of Valkyrie Prime." Captain Park nodded, thinking of his father's final message from New Haven. "Tell her the stars will remember us." The stars had indeed remembered, and they had become instruments of justice that ended an entire species, the memorial stations. Broadcast their message across the galaxy every day, telling the story of New Haven Colony and the 2.5 million humans who died there. They explained how the Valkyrie had hunted down refugee ships filled with fleeing families. They showed the systematic destruction that followed. 47 star systems erased from existence in response, but the memorials served another purpose. They were also demonstrations of human power, reminders that Earth could kill stars and end civilizations when necessary. Every species that received the broadcasts understood the implied message. This is what happens when you attack human civilians. Trade routes now avoided human space unless absolutely necessary. No species expanded in Earth's direction. Diplomatic communications with humanity were carefully worded to avoid any hint of threat or challenge. The galaxy had learned to fear the peaceful farmers from Earth, and that fear kept the peace better than any treaty ever could dot in the deepest archives of Earth Command. President Jiho Choi recorded his final assessment of the Valkyrie War for future generations. "The destruction of the Valkyrie Empire was necessary but regrettable," he said into the camera. "They forced us to reveal capabilities we had hoped to keep secret for another century. The galaxy now knows that humanity is capable of stellar-scale destruction, but they don't know the full extent of our abilities. We have weapons in development that could end entire galactic clusters. We have technology that makes our current military look primitive, and we continue to advance at a rate that ensures no other species will ever catch up to us. The price of peace is eternal vigilance and overwhelming superiority. We cannot afford to be seen as weak again. We cannot allow another New Haven to happen. And so we build weapons that gods would envy, and we prepare for threats that may not emerge for centuries. The galaxy fears us now, and that fear protects human lives. It is a terrible burden, but it is necessary. We are no longer the peaceful farmers we once pretended to be. We are the guardians of human civilization, and we will do whatever is required to keep our people safe." The recording was classified at the highest levels to be opened only in the event of another existential threat to humanity. It would serve as a guide for future leaders who might face decisions similar to the one that had led to the Valkyrie's extinction across the galaxy. The memorial stations continued their broadcasts, ensuring that the story of New Haven would never be forgotten. Captain Minho Park's final words had become prophetic. The stars did remember, and they had become humanity's weapons. The new galactic order was based on a simple principle: humanity could end any species that threatened them, and every civilization in the galaxy knew it. It was peace through strength on a scale never before seen, maintained by weapons that could kill stars and end entire clusters of worlds. The sleeping giant had awakened, revealed its true power, and then chosen to remain vigilant. The galaxy was safer for it, even if that safety came at the price of living in the shadow of humanity's terrible capabilities. In the end, the Valkyrie had taught the galaxy an important lesson. Ni